secret location where it's being grown legally.
The use of cannabis to treat medical conditions is on the rise around the world, including right here in the UK, where it can be grown legally under strict regulations in sites like this for medical use.
Healthcare professionals are increasingly recognising some of the medical benefits contained within cannabis. For some specific conditions, it can alleviate some of the symptoms. For others, it can take away the symptoms completely.
For epilepsy, medical cannabis can be the difference between life and death.
One seizure can kill Billy. Prescription cannabis is Billy's life-saving medicine.
Good boy, Billy.
Charlotte Caldwell's son Billy has the most severe form of epilepsy and had been at risk from life-threatening seizures since he was 4 months old, until he started taking medical cannabis.
What were the processes in getting him his medication?
Billy had tried a number of different pharmaceuticals, and quite literally none of them worked for Billy. And Billy was sent home to die by his treating clinical team.
Out of options, Charlotte desperately began looking for alternatives to save Billy's life.
That search led me to the Children's Hospital in Toronto, and Billy underwent a number of diagnostic tests, and that clinician was happy to prescribe. The medical cannabis is controlling his epilepsy.
His story made headlines in 2018 when, on the way back from Canada, the family was stopped at Heathrow Airport. At that time, the medical cannabis they were bringing home was illegal, and it was confiscated.
Billy's medical cannabis was confiscated on the Monday morning. By Friday morning, Billy was being blue lighted in an ambulance to the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital.
Billy's medical team pleaded through the night with the Home Office for the return of Billy's medicinal cannabis.
The next morning, Billy's medicine was returned. Billy got his first dose on the Saturday morning. By Saturday evening, he was sitting up. The seizures had stopped.
Billy's situation prompted a change in the law. In November 2018, cannabis for certain medical conditions became legally available on the NHS to a select few, including Billy. But the NHS guidelines for prescription of medical cannabis are strict, and while Billy is eligible, many others are not. Military veteran Rick Swain suffers with spinal arthritis and has to pay for private prescriptions for his treatment.
So medical cannabis has certainly changed my life.
Rick had been taking a range of pills to cope with pain, including opioids, which are highly addictive.
I've come off 5 different prescription drugs for medical cannabis.
But Rick's private prescription comes in at an eye-watering £430 per month.
So it is a massive cost. Certainly those that are on sort of statutory sick pay or unable to work will not be able to benefit from their medical cannabis.
Over 32,000 people are prescribed medical cannabis privately in the UK, but it's estimated that 1.8 million more are using illegal cannabis to alleviate medical conditions. That's worrying for experts in the field. Dr. Charlotte Small is a pain management consultant who prescribes medical cannabis privately to some of her patients.
Illicit cannabis, you don't know what it is. It's designed to get you high, it's designed to create a euphoria. Medical cannabis gives you a much more overall beneficial effect in terms of pain management, mood improvement and sleep, but it is an entirely different product.
Medical cannabis is not without risk though, and should be treated like any other medicine if it's to be widely accepted.
It is not a product without potential harm. Actually, paracetamol has much more research and evidence around it just because it's a white tablet and looks artificial. Medical cannabis might look like something that you grow in your garden, but it couldn't be further from something that's grown in your garden. And we're very, very keen to separate the two, because if we don't do that, then we'll never gain, legitimacy within clinical practice.
But before cannabis can be prescribed widely on the NHS, evidence backed by clinical trials is needed.
Within the NHS, we prescribe and treat according to guidelines, and there are very strict criteria for treatments, in particular medication, to be added to those guidelines that needs to be supported by robust evidence, and that evidence just doesn't exist yet.
But few pharmaceutical companies are currently investing in new clinical trials.
Not only is conducting these trials very expensive, it's also time-consuming.
And given that these companies can currently distribute it privately, there's little incentive. One company that is doing research is Celadon Pharmaceuticals. I'm meeting CEO James Short at the top secret location where they don't only research medical cannabis, but legally grow it too.
Oh, wow.
It's the cannabis bud that we're trying to get, and it's that you'll then take your extract from, or you'll prescribed as a flower.
Wow.
Initially skeptical, before getting involved in medical cannabis, James investigated for himself, meeting medical cannabis patients here and in Canada.
And it became apparent that the right cannabinoid for the right disease, with the right delivery mechanism, were having positive effects.
And he's optimistic that eventually more patients will benefit.
So we did a 3-month study. York University ran the results on that. We announced them a few weeks ago, and we've already demonstrated better quality of life, potential cost saving to the NHS. It's a win-win. That's what we're trying to do.
The next phase of the research will roll it out to 5,000 patients to establish the potential benefits of cannabis in treating chronic pain. Even though cannabis use remains highly controversial, studies like this could pave the way for many more people to access medical cannabis on the NHS.
However, we need more evidence as clinicians